Malacca Strait approaches. 2:11 local time. 64 United States Army Rangers descended toward a fortified Iranian underground nuclear transfer bunker defended by 213 Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps personnel beneath volcanic rock, less than 4 kilometers from the shipping corridor, carrying nearly a quarter of the world's maritime petroleum traffic. The target sat beneath a collapsed limestone quarry on the western edge of Great Nicobar Island's disputed exclusion zone, hidden behind civilian seismic monitoring stations and shielded under 80 meters of reinforced basalt. 48 minutes remained before a convoy carrying approximately 400 kilograms of weapons-grade uranium would move from subterranean storage tunnels to disguise commercial cargo, containers scheduled for maritime transfer at dawn. The bunker had never been designed to survive inspection. It had been designed to survive war. Iranian planners believed geography itself made the complex untouchable. The strait compressed global commerce into a narrow artery of container traffic, fuel tankers, and naval patrols where any direct military strike risked immediate international escalation. The bunker's architects exploited that hesitation. The facility operated under the cover designation of a multinational mineral survey installation funded through shell corporations stretching from Bandar Abbas to Singapore. Thermal shielding concealed ventilation signatures. Blast doors were mounted on hydraulic rails cut directly into volcanic stone. Surface defenses included radar-silent anti-aircraft launchers, buried fiber-linked observation posts, and overlapping heavy machine gun sectors commanding the quarry approaches. More dangerous than the defenses was the assumption behind them. Tehran believed Washington would never authorize a ground assault inside a crowded maritime corridor already saturated with civilian shipping traffic and multiple national naval patrol zones. Any conventional strike risked contaminating the region, disrupting trade, or igniting a broader conflict across the Indian Ocean. Air power alone could not guarantee destruction of a uranium stockpile without releasing radioactive material into groundwater channels feeding nearby civilian settlements. Precision mattered more than force. What Iranian commanders missed was a pattern hidden in the logistics. 3 weeks earlier, National Reconnaissance Office satellite imagery detected repeated nighttime refrigeration shipments inconsistent with mineral survey operations. Signals intercepts collected aboard a submerged Virginia-class attack submarine identified encrypted references to package for and departure synchronization. Then came the human source, an Azerbaijani procurement intermediary who vanished from Kuala Lumpur 42 hours before the operation. His intelligence included tunnel schematics, guard rotations, and one critical detail. The uranium transfer would occur during a scheduled diesel generator switchover, creating a 90-second surveillance blackout inside the primary access corridor. The operation order arrived at Joint Special Operations Command under a hard deadline. Seize or destroy the uranium before maritime dispersal. No airstrike, no prolonged engagement, no civilian casualties. 48 minutes maximum ground exposure before regional radar networks triangulated the assault package. The task force divided into 4 assault elements before crossing the final approach line. Alpha element consisted of 24 Rangers from 1st Battalion, 75th Ranger Regiment tasked with breaching the quarry perimeter and securing the primary tunnel entrance. They carried suppressed HK-416A5 carbines, M320 grenade launchers, Carl Gustav M4 recoilless rifles, and portable thermal cutters mounted in reinforced packs. Bravo element, 16 operators attached from Delta Force, would descend into the bunker itself and secure the uranium storage chamber. Charlie element controlled overwatch and interdiction from elevated jungle ridges using Barrett MR-80 sniper systems, M240L machine guns, and loitering Switchblade 600 munitions. Delta element remained offshore aboard 2 MH-60M Black Hawks and an AC-130J Ghost Rider orbiting beyond standard civilian radar corridors, prepared for extraction or immediate fire support. The unconventional advantage lay beneath the sea. Rather than approach directly across land, the Rangers inserted through submerged lava tubes mapped by underwater drones launched from the USS Annapolis 70 kilometers offshore. The tunnels emerged less than 600 meters from the quarry interior, bypassing minefields, motion sensors, and the primary defensive perimeter entirely. The entire operation depended on timing. If the Rangers failed to reach the bunker core before the uranium convoy moved, The material would disperse across civilian shipping routes impossible to intercept without provoking international panic. At 2:13, Alpha Elements surfaced waist-deep in black seawater, inside a flooded cavern illuminated only by dim red infrared strobes. Salt, diesel residue, and volcanic sulfur saturated the air. Sergeant First Class Nolan Reyes checked his wrist-mounted navigation tablet once, then signaled movement with 2 fingers. The Rangers advanced silently through the lava channel, boots grinding against mineral stones slick with condensation. 2 Iranian sentries appeared unexpectedly at the cavern exit, less than 70 meters ahead, smoking beside a disguised maintenance hatch. 1 Ranger froze as loose shale shifted beneath his boot. The nearest guard turned. Suppressed rifle fire cracked twice. Both guards collapsed before either weapon cleared its sling. At 2:17, Charlie Element established overwatch positions along the northern quarry rim. Wind speeds exceeded forecast estimates by nearly 11 kilometers per hour, forcing sniper teams to recalculate ballistic holds under heavy humidity. Below them, the quarry appeared dormant. Excavators sat abandoned beside conveyor rails. Portable floodlights cast pale cones through airborne dust drifting above limestone pits. Nothing visible suggested the presence of an underground nuclear storage facility beneath the rock. Then the generators switched. For exactly 90 seconds, the surveillance grid disappeared. Alpha sprinted. Combat engineers reached the concealed blast door at 2:19. Thermal cutters ignited against steel locking mechanisms, spraying white sparks across the rock face. The smell of burning metal filled the narrow corridor. 1 Ranger unpacked a compact electronic warfare jammer, while another deployed a fiber-optic camera beneath the door seam. 6 armed personnel waited inside. Reyes counted silently. The shaped charges detonated with a muffled concussive thump that punched the blast door inward. Flashbang grenades followed instantly. Rangers surged through the smoke before the defenders recovered. Short bursts from suppressed carbines echoed violently inside the confined tunnel. Concrete fragments sprayed from wall impacts. 1 Iranian technician attempted to reach an alarm panel before a Ranger tackled him into the corridor floor. At 2:21, the bunker finally understood it was under attack. Emergency sirens activated throughout the underground complex. Red backup lights flooded the tunnels. Hydraulic doors began sealing secondary access routes automatically. Deep inside the facility, Revolutionary Guard Commander Colonel Farhad Vaziri initially believed the intrusion was an internal sabotage event. The surface perimeter showed no breach. Radar detected no aircraft overhead, no incoming missiles, no naval movement. Then surveillance feeds from Tunnel 3 died simultaneously. Vaziri ordered rapid reaction squads toward the central corridor at 2:23. 42 IRGC troops armed with AK-103 rifles and PK machine guns converged from barracks chambers carved into the rock. They moved fast, but the Rangers moved faster. Bravo elements split from Alpha at the first underground junction and descended toward the uranium vault. Narrow concrete stairwells amplified every footstep. The deeper they moved, the hotter the air became. Ventilation fans pushed chemical fumes and diesel exhaust through cramped corridors lined with electrical conduits. At 2:25, the first major firefight erupted. An Iranian machine gun team established a blocking position behind overturned maintenance carts 50 meters down Corridor Delta. PKM fire ripped through the hallway in sustained bursts, sparks erupting from concrete walls as rounds ricocheted through the confined space. Ranger Specialist Evan Cole took fragmentation across his left shoulder when a ricochet shattered overhead piping. Water exploded into the corridor, reducing visibility instantly. Reyes adapted immediately. Instead of frontal engagement, he ordered a Carl Gustav M4 round fired through a side maintenance partition. The recoilless rifle backblast filled the corridor with choking smoke as a high-explosive round punched through concrete and detonated behind the Iranian position. The machine gun fire stopped instantly. The delay cost 90 seconds. At 2:28, bunker security initiated full lockdown. Reinforced blast shutters began descending across the uranium vault approach corridor. Bravo elements sprinted the final 80 meters before entrapment. One operator slid beneath the descending steel barrier with less than half a meter clearance, while others forced a hydraulic system upward using portable expansion jacks. Metal screamed against pressure. Hydraulic fluid sprayed across the floor. Then came the first American fatality. A concealed IRGC marksman firing from an elevated maintenance alcove struck Staff Sergeant Liam Mercer through the neck seal of his plate carrier at 229. Mercer collapsed immediately beside the blast shutter controls. Blood spread rapidly across the concrete floor, while medics attempted airway stabilization under fire. The marksman fired again, missing by centimeters. Charlie Element solved the problem from above, using thermal overlays transmitted through drone feeds. Sniper Team Leader Staff Sergeant Darius Kane identified a marksman through a ventilation aperture barely visible from the quarry rim. At 2:30, his .338 Norma Magnum round penetrated the vent housing, crossed nearly 640 meters of vertical and horizontal distance, and killed the shooter instantly. Below ground, Bravo pushed forward. The uranium chamber sat behind a biometric security vault protected by layered steel and composite shielding. Intelligence suggested the facility stored approximately 400 kilograms of uranium hexafluoride sealed inside transport cylinders prepared for maritime transfer. What intelligence failed to mention was the automated destruction system wired into the chamber walls. At 2:33, operators discovered demolition charges mounted directly beside the containment racks. Colonel Vaziri had realized the objective. Unable to repel the assault conventionally, he ordered destruction of the material before capture. Bravo Element Commander Captain Elias Rourke faced a brutal calculation. Disarming the charges manually would consume time they no longer possessed. Detonation risked radioactive dispersal through the bunker ventilation network. Outside, Charlie Element reported incoming reinforcements approaching from a concealed eastern access road. At least 6 technical vehicles and approximately 70 additional RGC fighters moving toward the quarry. The mission hovered on collapse. At 2:35, the first reinforcement trucks entered the quarry perimeter under blackout conditions. Heavy DSHK machine guns mounted on Toyota pickups opened fire toward Charlie's overwatch positions. Tracer rounds sliced through jungle vegetation, while mortar teams began ranging the ridgelines. The Rangers had lost a prize. AC-130J Ghost Rider support finally entered the fight. Orbiting beyond visual range above heavy cloud cover, the gunship received authorization for limited engagement. Seconds later, the deep mechanical rhythm of a 30mm GAU-23 slashed a chain gun rolled across the quarry. Precision fire shredded the lead technical vehicle, scattering debris and burning fuel across the access road. A 105mm precision-guided round followed, collapsing the narrow bridge feeding the eastern approach. But the enemy kept coming. Iranian fighters dismounted and advanced through quarry trenches under disciplined fire control. These were not militia irregulars. Many belonged to the Quds Force Security Detachment, assigned specifically to nuclear transfer operations. They maneuvered aggressively, using excavation pits and conveyor structures for cover, while attempting to bracket Charlie Element from both flanks. At 2:37, Sergeant Kane's sniper position took direct RPG fire. Limestone fragments blasted through the observation hide. One sniper lost his right eye to stone fragmentation, while another suffered a fractured femur during the collapse. Charlie Element shifted positions under continuous pressure, dragging wounded personnel through dense jungle while maintaining overwatch. Inside the bunker, Bravo Element confronted the demolition network. The charges use hardened deadman circuitry linked to biometric sensors attached to the facility commander's command console. Killing Vaziri outright could trigger immediate detonation. Keeping him alive risked coordinated counterattack. Captain Rourke made a decision at 2:39. Capture the commander. Alpha Element redirected toward the command sector, while Bravo secured the vault perimeter. Flashbangs detonated through adjoining corridors as Rangers cleared room after room under close-quarter conditions measured in meters rather than terrain. Muzzle flashes strobed through smoke-filled hallways. The smell of cordite, ozone, and pulverized concrete saturated the underground air. One Iranian defender attempted to flood the tunnel network by rupturing industrial coolant lines. Another activated internal fire suppression foam, hoping to blind advancing Rangers. Visibility dropped below 2 meters. The fight became intimate. Specialist Jonah Vale lost his primary optic after a rifle round shattered a lens housing at 241. He transitioned to backup iron sights and continued clearing corridors manually while dragging Mercer's body armor from a blocked doorway. Nearby, an Iranian engineer armed only with a sidearm attempted to disable server racks before being restrained by Rangers securing the intelligence archive room. Then the power failed completely. Emergency lights died. The bunker descended into absolute darkness broken only by infrared lasers and muzzle flashes. American night vision systems transformed the battlefield instantly. Green phosphor images flooded Ranger optics while Iranian defenders struggled blind in their own corridors. The balance shifted hard. Rangers advanced room by room with ruthless efficiency, infrared aiming lasers cutting through the dark like surgical markers. Suppressed fire cracked in controlled pairs. Doors splintered inward under shotgun breaching rounds. At 2:43, Alpha Element breached the command center. Colonel Vaziri stood beside the demolition console, holding a Russian Makarov pistol and shouting final instructions into a field radio. 3 guards died within seconds attempting resistance. Vaziri reached toward the detonation switch. Sergeant Reyes crossed the room before the colonel completed the motion. The tackle drove both men into a communications rack hard enough to collapse the console sideways. Electrical sparks burst across the room. The detonation sequence halted mid-cycle with less than 20 seconds remaining on the countdown display. Outside, the quarry battle intensified further. Surviving IRGC reinforcements established firing lines along the excavation terraces, while additional fighters emerged from concealed tunnel exits unknown to American intelligence. Charlie Element reported ammunition dropping below 40%. Mortar rounds walked steadily closer to their ridgeline positions. One impact at 244 buried a machine gun team beneath collapsing shale. The extraction window was evaporating. Captain Rourke transmitted the code phrase, confirming objective access at 2:45. Package secured. Inside the uranium vault, Rangers verified 20 sealed transport cylinders bearing Iranian Atomic Energy Organization markings. Portable radiation detectors confirmed elevated enrichment signatures consistent with weapons-grade processing. Engineers photographed serial numbers, attached tracking beacons, and initiated containment procedures using lead-line transport cradles carried in modular packs. They could not carry all 400 kilograms. The mission shifted from seizure to denial. Explosive ordnance specialists planted thermite charges along the secondary enrichment cascade equipment, while selecting 4 priority cylinders for extraction based on intelligence tags linked to advanced centrifuge research. Remaining material will be rendered unusable through controlled destruction. At 2:46, Bravo Element began withdrawal toward the primary tunnel route. Then the bunker shook. A concealed secondary force detonated prepositioned demolition charges along the northern corridor, collapsing nearly 30 meters of tunnel and severing the planned extraction route. Dust and pulverized rock blasted through the hallway with hurricane force. 2 Rangers disappeared beneath falling debris instantly. The enemy had adapted. Colonel Vaziri, bleeding heavily but conscious, revealed the existence of an emergency submarine access shaft leading toward the coastline. Without it, the Rangers would remain trapped underground against converging forces. Reyes forced the colonel to guide them personally. At 2:47, the assault force diverted through maintenance tunnels barely wide enough for single-file movement. Steam hissed from ruptured pipes overhead. Emergency bulkheads slammed shut throughout the bunker as automated fail-safe systems continued cycling uncontrollably after the power failure. Behind them, surviving IRGC defenders regrouped for pursuit. The final running firefight unfolded inside the submarine access corridor, descending toward the coast. Iranian troops advanced aggressively through the smoke despite mounting casualties. Rifle fire echoed violently off the tunnel walls. Grenade blasts compressed air hard enough to rupture eardrums. Specialist Cole, already wounded earlier, remained behind with an M240L machine gun to cover the withdrawal. At 2:48, he established a final firing position beside a narrow choke point littered with collapsed piping. His sustained fire pinned pursuing forces long enough for Bravo to reach the extraction shaft. Witnesses later reported the machine gun continued firing for nearly 40 uninterrupted seconds after secondary explosions engulfed the corridor. Cole did not survive. At the coastline extraction point, MH-60M Black Hawks descended through heavy rotor wash onto a narrow volcanic shelf illuminated only by infrared strobes invisible to the naked eye. Rangers loaded uranium cylinders first, then wounded personnel. AC-130 fire continued hammering quarry reinforcement routes less than 2 kilometers inland. The final complication emerged from the sea. 2 fast attack craft armed with heavy machine guns and anti-ship rockets approached from the north at high speed, likely activated through delayed emergency protocols after bunker communications failed. Delta Element reacted instantly. AH-6 Little Bird escort skimmed low across the waterline, firing APKWS laser-guided rockets into the lead craft at 2:51. The explosion rolled across the coastline in a sheet of orange flame and shredded aluminum hull plating. The second vessel attempted evasive maneuvering before. 50 caliber fire from a Black Hawk door gunner disabled its engines. Extraction completed at 2:54, 43 minutes after initial breach. The last helicopter lifted away from the volcanic shoreline, carrying seized uranium material, captured intelligence servers, and 27 wounded personnel. Behind them, thermite charges ignited inside the bunker complex. Surveillance drones later recorded sustained subterranean fires burning for nearly 9 hours beneath the quarry. Casualty accounting began before the helicopters crossed open water. United States forces suffered 5 killed and 19 wounded during the operation. Iranian losses were assessed at 83 killed, 41 wounded, and 17 captured, including Colonel Vaziri and multiple nuclear logistics personnel. American forces seized approximately 96 kilograms of confirmed weapons-grade uranium, encrypted transfer manifests, centrifuge engineering data, and communications records linking the operation to covert maritime proliferation networks extending across the Indian Ocean basin. The strategic consequences emerged within days. Insurance rates for commercial shipping through the Malacca corridor spiked temporarily as governments quietly assessed the implications on undisclosed nuclear transfer network operating beneath civilian trade infrastructure. Several shell corporations connected to the quarry vanished almost overnight. Financial intelligence units traced emergency fund movements through banks in Muscat, Karachi, and Jakarta before accounts were frozen under multinational sanctions coordination. Officially, the operation never occurred. No nation publicly acknowledged a firefight beneath Great Nicobar Island. Satellite imagery released weeks later showed only a quarry destroyed by industrial accident and subsequent geological instability. Yet intelligence services around the world studied the aftermath carefully. The message carried beyond the uranium itself. The United States had demonstrated the ability to locate, penetrate, and dismantle hardened nuclear infrastructure without large-scale invasion, strategic bombing, or mass civilian casualties. Precision had replaced spectacle. Information dominance had replaced overwhelming force. For the Rangers who survived, the memory remained less strategic than physical. The weight of uranium cylinders dragged through flooded tunnels. The smell of burnt hydraulic fluid and wet concrete. Rotor wash hammering volcanic surf during extraction. Sergeant Mercer dying beside a blast door while trying to hold a corridor open long enough for others to pass. Specialist Cole firing alone into darkness, so the mission could continue moving forward. Those details survived long after the classified briefings ended. Weeks later, analysts reconstructed the battle minute by minute from helmet cameras, drone feeds, biometric trackers, and intercepted Iranian communications. One transmission from inside the bunker surfaced repeatedly during review. At approximately 2:41, as American forces penetrated command sector, an unidentified Iranian officer transmitted a final warning across the internal defense net. They're already inside the stone. That realization defined the operation more than the firefight itself. The bunker had been engineered to resist missiles, survive bombardment, and disappear beneath civilian infrastructure. Its designers anticipated satellites, sanctions, cyber warfare, and diplomatic pressure. They prepared for visible forms of power. What they underestimated was coordinated speed. Intelligence fused directly into action faster than defensive systems could adapt. Modern warfare no longer belonged exclusively to the largest formations or the strongest fortifications. It belonged to whoever could compress detection, decision, and execution into the smallest possible span of time. 48 minutes proved enough to unravel years of concealment buried beneath volcanic rock and geopolitical hesitation. When hardened defenses attempt to disappear behind geography, secrecy, and escalation risk, the defining American capability becomes the ability to reach them anyway, not through mass, but through precision under pressure. That legacy continues shaping modern warfare. Smaller assault forces carrying disproportionate strategic consequences into places once considered unreachable.